this video, we are going to discuss the history of the C language, programming guidelines, and the structure of the C program. Come to the first part, history. It is a third generation programming language. At this point, what are the generations of the computers? There are totally 5 generations like this. First generation of computers, the duration is 1940 to 1956. Technology was vacuum tube technology. And second generation of computers, 1956 to 1964. Technology was the transistors. And third generation of computers, 1964 to 1971. And technology was integrated circuits. And fourth generation programming language, fourth generation of computers, 1971 to 2010. Technology was a microprocessor. Fifth generation of computers, 2010 to at present. Now artificial intelligence, that is the technology. Initially, the name for C language was B language, also called a BCPL, Basic Combined Programming Language. In 1972, B language was renamed as a C language at Bell Laboratories by Dennis Rich. AT&T means American Telephone and Telegraph. And the last point related to history is 75% of Unix operating system was developed by using C language. Come to the next one. There are certain programming guidelines. So these guidelines are optional. If you are not maintaining guidelines, no issues. But if you are maintaining guidelines, you become a good programmer. For example, what are the guidelines for any programming language? The first one is specifying the proper documentation. Suppose you are writing the code with n number of lines or n number of subroutines without any proper comments, so without proper documentation, is it possible to understand what this program is going to do until you run the program and give some input and then get the output? So this program is for this and this subroutine is for this. So that is a problem without documentation. So that give the proper documentation for each and every stage. Like if for declaring variables, what for this? If for defining a subroutine, what for this? Like this, you can use some proper documentation. And the next one is any programming language, whatever the code you are written, that you can call it as a code block. So sometimes you are going to be work with n number of blocks, internal block, external blocks, block within the block, that means nested blocks. Here you can maintain a proper indent. That means while working with the nested blocks, maintain the proper indent. What this means? Suppose, let us say C language structure, main block is there. So within the main block, so based on certain situations, different blocks comes into the picture. For each and every block is opened with open curly bracket and terminated with the closing curly bracket. If you are maintaining all the blocks at the same level, while working with the more number of blocks, it's not possible to identify how many opening blocks are there, opening brackets are there, and how many closings are required. See, in this case, what happened? Totally 4 opening brackets are there. By mistake, I have given only 3. In this case, what happened? Sometimes you are getting not sometimes. If you are missing any curly bracket, closing bracket, or if you misplace curly bracket, it will give you an error and you are not getting the proper output. So representation of writing the program in a such a way is a completely wrong. So what is the right one? So you have to each and every block stage, you have to maintain an indent. Indent in this sense, one tab space for each and every level. Whenever the nested blocks comes into the picture, you can use one tab like this. Now see. So main block close, block one close, block two close. It's easy to understand and easy to identify where you have to put the block closing brackets. This is most important while working with the complex programs, not for simple program. Only one main block is there. Anyhow, it's easy to identify. If it is only one bracket, opening bracket is there, ultimately you can put only one close. I'm talking about the complex programs which contains the more number of nested blocks, right? And they come to the next one. While declaring the variables, specifying the proper names. While declaring the variables, specifying the proper names. You can use the variable names as anything. Suppose if you want to work with 6 variables, you can use the names as A, B, C, D, E, F, like this you can use. But the problem is, always you have to remember what is the value stored in A, what for A, what for B, what for C, what for A, what for D, what for F. Like this you have to remember. Is it possible to remember? Definitely no. That's why while declaring the variables, give the proper names. For example, find out the sum of two numbers is an even or odd. I can use the variable names as number 1. Let's say simple n1. n1 represents the first number, n2 represents the second number. And what is the problem definition? Find out the sum of two numbers is an even or odd, so that you can declare one more variable with the name sum instead of using ABC. That's the best. And come to the next one, structure of the C program. The first most important section is our documentation section. There you can specify the comments. Single line comments can be represented with a double slash. Multi-line comments can be represented with the slash star and terminated by star slash. In between these two symbols, you can use multiple lines of text. So already I told in the previous point, programming guidelines, specifying the proper documentation. So this is most important. So one thing, you can put the comments anywhere in the program, not only first, not only at middle, not only in somewhere. There is no rules for this. Wherever particular complex logic, particular important point comes into the picture in your program, there you can put a comment. This is for this. And the next one is linkage section. To establish the link with the header files. Header files is the most important resource in C language. Some of the additional functionalities if you want to get into your program, you can use the linkage section. So it can be represented by using a hash include. If it is a header file, you can use the angular brackets file name.h. For example, I want to work with the mathematical functions. You can use the math.h. Or I want to work with the string functions. You can use the string.h. In same way, it's possible to establish the link with the user-defined programs also. In this case, you can use the second syntax. That is the file name.c. There you can use some reusable functionalities wherever you want, you can include. And the next one is the definition section to define the manifest constants. This manifest constants won't occupy any space. Here you can declare the variables, or you can use the expressions, or you can use the statements. Anyhow, in the coming topics, whenever this point comes into the picture while writing the programs, I will explain in detail where to use a hash define. And the next one is the global variable declarations and function declaration. This you have to specify before the main function. And the next one is main function. and you can use the statements. So C is a purely case sensitive. You can use only lowercase letters. And while declaring the variables also, it shows the difference between uppercase variables as well as the lowercase variables. And final one is definition section. Sorry, use the defined functions. You can define your own functions. At any point of time, except the main, remaining all sections are optional. Remaining all sections are optional. Main is a must. Without main function, it's not possible to write a C program.